Hi everybody, it's Eric from Blackstone Valley Veggie Gardens, and what we're actually going to start to do, what I'm going to do this year in 2021, is put together a series of instructional videos and hopefully educational videos on how to deal with certain crops in the home garden. And the first thing we're going to do, we're going to open our series tonight talking about carrots. Now, why am I going to make such a big deal out of growing carrots? Well, probably because when it comes to the home garden, they are intimidating for the novice gardener, as is any root crop, because you don't really know, because they grow underground, you can't really tell what's going on with them. And the timing with all root crops is crucial also. So we're going to talk about how to sow the seeds, how to prepare your containers or beds, and how to issues you could possibly look for as the season goes along. So I have actually prepared two 14-inch flower boxes here. You can see them here, or excuse me, 24-inch flower boxes. I have been growing carrots in flower boxes like this for as long as I can remember. So these boxes, like I said, about 20 to 24 inches long, and if you come over here, you'll see they are roughly 10 to 12 inches deep, which is the perfect size for perfect specifications for most varieties of carrots that get to be 6, 8, 10 inches long. The more space we can give them, the better. And as is with any crop or any time you're going to plant in a container, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you get a good lightweight potting mix, especially for root crops, because what we want to do is we want to make sure that the soil or whatever growing medium we're going to use is loose all the way down to the very bottom. That's because obviously, you know, we're growing this crop for the root and we want as little disturbance as possible. You may have seen sometimes when you go into the market, or you go into, I should say, the farmer's market or farmer's stand, because most of the time in the grocery store, you know, you really only get the stuff that looks like it's been machined because it's so perfect. Seeing carrots with actually two ends on them, and what that is called that's called forking, F-O-R-K-I-N-G, and it is a result of the growing medium being too rocky or not loose enough while the crop or while the root is developing. It hits this impediment such as a rock or rough soil, and actually the taproot will branch off into two separate directions, and that's called forking. So what we've actually done here, what I've done is I've taken my potting mix and I have filled the containers up to the very top and then lightly misted the water down with my hose over there on the shower setting. If you have one of those 7-way nozzles, I would recommend, actually if you don't have one of them, I would recommend highly that you get one, especially for growing in containers. If you're going to be growing your carrots or any root crop in a raised bed, such as this right here, this soil here I got last year from one of my local landscapers. It's actually very, very loose loam. It's a combination of loam and topsoil, and it is very good for root crop production. But if you're living in an area where you're trying to do them in ground and your soil is very rocky and hard, you can mix some peat moss in with the soil, as well as possibly some vermiculite, or even some playground sand or some builder's sand. Anything that you want to use to loosen your soil. And what you should be able to do in a raised bed, if your soil is good, as you see me, I've been doing here while I've been talking to you, with your hand, you should be able to get all the way down as deep as you can without running into anything that's too loose. These beds are about a foot deep, and they're good for a variety of different things, but we're here talking about carrots tonight. So what I've done, like I said, I have filled these containers to the top and lightly misted them down. The more real estate you can give a crop, obviously the better. That's why we fill these all the way to the top. But specifically with root crops, carrots, onions, beets, potatoes to a lesser extent, even though they stretch out, and even these radishes here. These radishes that I planted a few weeks ago, you can actually see one of them bulbing right here. These are about 2 Oh, I say this is about 2 or 3 weeks old, and this one might actually even be ready in the next week or so. But we're here, like I said, we're talking about carrots. Now, one of the things that I think may actually turn home gardeners, especially newbies, off about carrots is how devilishly small the seeds are. When we think about things such as actual vegetables, defining vegetable as something that does not produce edible seed during its life cycle, carrots, celery, lettuce, you know, the cole crops, we really don't realize how small the seed actually is. So I'm actually going to take, I have here, hopefully I can get a shot inside the seed pouch. These here, these are Bolero carrots. This is a Danvers variety, about 6 to 8, sometimes up to 9 inches long. And you can see it says 75 DTM, or it says actually on this pouch it says days, but that's DTM, an acronym you've probably seen before that just means days to maturity, which is basically how long does it take between the time you sow that seed to the time you dig up the crop or harvest the crop. And this here says 750 seeds, and it's really not too far off. If you look inside the pouch here, you see how small these carrot seeds actually are. So what we want to do is we want to take these seeds, and in a box like this, in a couple of boxes like this, we should be able to get 2 rows of carrots in, spaced about 8 inches apart. So one in the front of the box and one in the back. And you're going to space the seeds about 2 inches apart. So what I'm going to do is put the phone down for 1 second so I can get some of the seeds in my hand here. And this actually gives you an even better idea of how small these are and how difficult they can be to work with sometimes. Now, what I've seen some people do, if you don't have a steady hand, because it does take a steady hand to sow carrot seeds, otherwise you end up with about 3 or 4 in a bunch. They do have a lot of the garden catalogs, or reputable garden catalogs, will actually have seeders that you can actually, they have buttons. They have like a reservoir in there where you push a button and dispenses 1 seed at a time. Some people actually will take them and use tweezers. But what I'm going to show you here is a different technique. You can actually get these and you can roll them one at a time between your thumb and your index finger. And that's actually a very good way to do it also. So I'm going to try to do that as best as I can here to allow you guys to see what it is that I'm actually talking about. And take some seeds and put them down here. I'm just going to leave a couple in my hand. I've got, I don't know, rough guess here, maybe 10 to 12. But if you take them, and this does take a little bit of practice, but if you get them in to the tip of your finger, which I'm not going to try to do here, I'm just going to go ahead and manually place it like that. I have about 5 or 6 seeds here in between my thumb and my index finger. And we're just going to go ahead and we're going to roll these out like that. One at a time. See that? 1, 2, 3. I guess I only had 3. I thought I had about 6 or so. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to continue to sow the rest of this row one at a time. Now, if you read the back of a packet of carrot seeds, it tells you, you know, plant them together about 1 inch apart, and then when they mature or they germinate, you want to plant them or thin them out to do 2 to 3, so they stand 2 to 3 inches apart. My theory on that is if you're going to thin the plants out, and this goes for any seed, but if you're going to thin them out, why not just start by sowing them at the desired spacing anyway? That way you don't have to have, you know, guilt or remorse for killing a perfectly good plant. And if you do get a couple in a hole, that's fine. But what we're trying to do here, whoops, that was about 8 right there. That wasn't a very good shot. What we're trying to do is we're trying to eliminate, you know, like I said, getting 3 or 4 of them in a hole at a time. So once we have them all sown like this, the next thing that we want to do, because these are so small, again, we want to make sure that we cover them up now. And good for seed germination, and this goes for starting inside too, good seed germination, a lot of it is dependent on good seed to soil contact. So I'm going to go ahead now with a little bit of reserved soil from the bag and just lightly go over the top here. Now you can, if you want, there's nothing wrong. I'm going to leave a couple right here to show you what else you can do to ensure good soil to seed contact, especially with seeds of this size. You don't necessarily have to do it with something like cucumbers, which are very big, but if you just take the back of your hand or a couple of fingers on your hand and just gently tamp down to make sure that that seed is touching the soil, and then you can just cover it up gently like that. And then once that's all done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to smooth very, very carefully and very gently with my hand, go over the top of the box. Again, just to ensure the contact. Now, the next question becomes, now that we've got this done, what is the best way to water seeds that are this small? Well, again, I'm going to come over here and we're going to grab my hose with the 7-way nozzle on it again. And most of the time what you do when you water your garden, you're going to use the shower setting like this, and you're going to get a stream that looks like that. Now, for small seeds like this, that's not necessarily bad, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to get too close to the soil like this, because it's going to end up, you're going to end up dislodging the seed, and that's not what you want to do. So a couple of the best options here, if you're going to use the shower setting, hold it. This is maybe about, if I have to estimate, this is about 18 inches over the box, and I'm just going to lightly water like this. You don't want to drown your seeds right now, just a light watering. Also, you have on your nozzle, if you have the mist setting, this is a good one too. You see that fine mist right there? That's a very good setting as well, because we want to maintain the contact seed to soil for as long as possible, or as well as possible, I should say. Can't turn my hose off now. There we go. Okay, so having done all that, your soil temperature for carrots, here I am in Uxbridge, and we're in zone 6B now. I don't plant my carrots until the middle of May. Today is May 12th. Finally, we're going to get a stretch of nice warm weather. It's going to be in the 70s during the day, in the 40s and 50s at night, which is perfect for growing carrots. So that's what you want to look for as far as temperature goes. Days in the 60s to 70s and nights in the mid 40s to low 50s. Under ideal conditions now, carrots will take anywhere between 4 and 7 days to germinate. And if all goes well, you're going to have your carrots within 2.5 to 3 months. So that is a look at carrot seeding and growing. Later on in the season, as these carrots continue to grow, I will come back and do more video. We can talk about thinning them out. We can also talk about what to look for as far as issues or possible diseases go that affect all root crops. But until then, for more videos, please make sure that you browse this channel on YouTube. And to get a list of all of our services, you can go to our website, www.blackstonevalleyveggegardens.com. Thanks for watching.